Thank you all for coming. It's a great honor to be here speaking for the Goldman School of Public Policy and following in the footsteps of really distinguished people. I'm going to be talking about the politics of obesity, which I like to call the ironic politics of obesity because of what I see as an enormous political problem. We may think of obesity as being a health problem. It's certainly the #1 public health nutrition problem in the United States, and much more than a cosmetic problem because it really has important effects on health. But I'm interested in the politics of it. I don't think we can solve the obesity problem without addressing the political issues that surround it. And to indicate that I'm not alone in thinking this, here's Fortune magazine from about a month ago saying, "Is fat the next tobacco? The war over obesity will be fought in the courts, and that's bad news for big food." The same week, New Scientist, the British scientific magazine, it's sort of like Scientific American, came out with a cover issue, All American High. Can fast food alter your brain in the same way as tobacco and heroin? I bet you never thought of that. I'm going to be showing slides and want to begin with the first one if I can have it. Let me start with this because I think there's been a huge paradigm shift in the way that this country deals with the obesity epidemic. This was a cover story from 2 years ago, August, Newsweek, about the childhood obesity epidemic, Fat for Life, 6 million kids are seriously overweight. What families can do. 2 years ago, the obesity epidemic was framed as a familial problem. Look what happened 2 years later. Next one, please. This is U.S. News and World Report, Supersize America, How Our Way of Life is Killing Us. I see this as an enormous paradigm shift from obesity being a matter of personal responsibility to one in which what's going on in society has a great deal of influence over what people are eating and how much they weigh. And that's what I'm going to be talking about during this talk. So let me deal with the science of obesity in one slide. The next one, please. This is what the issue of obesity is about. It's about calories. It really isn't much more complicated than that. If calories in and calories out are balanced, weight stays the same. If caloric intake exceeds caloric output, you're going to gain weight. And in order to lose weight, you have to reduce caloric intake below expenditure. In other words, eat less. Now, notice that there are two sides to the equation. Next one, please. This is the activity side of the equation. As far as we can tell from the research that's been done on this, rates of activity have not changed very much in the last 10 or 15 years, which is the period of time in which rates of obesity have just skyrocketed. The enormous increase in the prevalence of obesity is really a quite recent phenomenon. And in fact, the Centers for Disease Control on its website has these amazing maps that show changes from year to year. And this is really unprecedented in public health terms. So if activity levels haven't changed, and I don't want to push that point too hard, but that's what the data seem to be showing, then it has to be a matter of food. Next one. And here's what we're supposed to be eating according to the Department of Agriculture. This is the Department of Agriculture's now exceedingly controversial food guide pyramid. And I like to describe myself as the only remaining nutritionist in America who still thinks there's anything good about this. What I think is good about it is that it's clearly hierarchical. It clearly indicates that you're supposed to eat more foods from the bottom of the pyramid than you are from the top of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid is fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. The top of the pyramid is high-fat meat and dairy products and foods high in fat and sugar, which mainly means processed foods. So take a look at that, because now we're going to look at what people are actually eating. Next one. As you can see from this, the pyramid is an actual consumption pyramid, indicates that the American diet on average is extremely unbalanced, and people are eating more foods from the top of the pyramid than they are from the bottom of the pyramid. And so the question we have to ask is, why is this happening? Now, there has been a huge amount of research on why people make the food choices they do, and that's shown on the next slide. And there are, I divide the reasons for making food choices into 3 broad categories. The number one by far is convenience. It turns out if you have a bowl of candy that's within arm's reach, people will eat more from it than they will if it's 10 feet away or 20 feet away. And we understand what convenience is about. It's the way we live now. And we want our food to be quick and easy to get and quick to consume. The second major category is what I call the personal preference or the personal responsibility issues. And these have to do with why individuals say they like the foods they do. And even that is not a completely simple matter of taste. It's also influenced by how old you are, whether you're male or female, what your cultural background is, what your income is, very important. Income, very important issue, ethnicity, and how old you are, and so forth. So those are the personal choice issues. But then there's a third category that nobody ever talks about, and I call that the global food marketing category. And I think of it as the elephant under the carpet. There's this big monster in the room, but everybody is averting eyes and pretending that it isn't there. And so one of the things I want to do is talk about what the there is that's there. And in order to do that, we have to talk about the American food system, which I summarize on the next slide. This slide makes 4 points. Number one, food is big business in the United States. $1.3 trillion last year, a substantial portion, 8% of total domestic spending, 13% of the labor force. Really, really big business. Number two, increasingly food is consumed outside the home. Nearly half the American food dollar is spent on food that is prepared for us by somebody else outside the home. And this means that the food service and restaurant industry is half of that $1.3 trillion. So it's big business too. Point three, food is